Do it over there.
This is a call to order of the special meeting of the Personnel, Pension, and Insurance Committee of the Metropolitan District, Wednesday, October 25th, 2023. Mr. Secretary, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
Okay. That being the case, we will move to item 2, public comments relative to agenda items. Once again, public comments relative to agenda items. There being none, we'll move to item 3, approval of meeting minutes of September 20th, 2023. Second. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Move to item 4, discussion of maternity leave. Let me just sort of make it clear what one of the things that at least I'm concerned about here. I don't know if any of you are aware of the fact that I believe it was United Way indicated that for a family of 4 to just live in Connecticut, they were talking that you needed a salary of something like $120,000. And one of the things that at least struck me was, I was curious. I know that when people go out on maternity leave that, you know, the salary continues, or it does, and I was just curious, and I think it's important for us to at least hear from staff, what's the process of laying out what the salary is over that period of time.
Sure. Thank you, commissioners. Can you hear me okay? So maternity leave, essentially, we treat in some ways the same as any other disability. So FMLA is first and foremost. Is what would be available to employees. In terms of what I was specifically asked for was how is the salary computed, which is what I'm understanding from your question as well. So currently the way, if anyone is out for any medical leave of absence, whether it be maternity or, you know, heart condition, anything else. Again, it would be covered under FMLA, and they would have available to them their use of their available sick time, which means their salary is not impacted as long as they have the sufficient sick leave to cover the length of their absence, which I did kind of a quick look at where the balances are of our employees on a sick leave basis, and the vast majority of our employees would have enough sick time to cover any substantive absence from work. We obviously have some who may be a little on the lower end, but the vast majority, probably upwards of 80%, have sufficient sick time. We also, in terms of pregnancy, adhere to all other laws and regulations in terms of Pregnancy Discrimination Act, so we also make accommodations for employees for pregnancy and non-pregnancy related conditions. So I don't know if you have other questions. I know the focus seemed to be the compensation, but there should be very minimal impact to employees who are out for maternity leave.
Did you have any questions? Ms. Curry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi. Of the 20% that you say don't have sufficient sick time, can you take a best guess at the numbers that don't have because they've not been employed long enough to have accrued that time?
Most of them definitely would be newer employees or, again, people who maybe, you know, not everyone comes in with the mindset of I'm going to save my sick time. We're never going to change that mentality with certain individuals where they're going to say, I earn it, I'm going to use it. So I think it's kind of a mix of that group. But honestly, it's probably not even that 20%. It wouldn't even be that high that wouldn't have a sufficient balance. It's probably more like 15% if I'm really looking at the numbers.
Right.
What was the sufficient balance? I didn't hear it.
Yep.
How long?
So about 400 hours would, I think
So
that's
10 weeks?
about 8 weeks. Yeah. So we have the vast majority of our employees that have more time than that.
So is it officially called maternity leave or it's disability? We have really nothing that's called maternity leave?
I mean, right now, what we're speaking of is maternity leave, but again, sick leave can be used for any medical condition, including pregnancy, for which someone would need to be away from work.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, just to add to that, so an employee gets paid depending on how much sick time, vacation time they have, and their job under FMLA is protected for up to 12 weeks. So that's
Basically, the job is protected. They get paid with their sick time. And if
correct.
they're 2 weeks short, they just have to go
Yes.
Exactly.
with no 2 weeks. So
Exactly.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Moving to item 4, discussion of market survey of salary levels for exempt and excluded employees. The last time we went out and took a look at the market and did a comparative study was Chuck Sheehan was here, and I think that was
2014.
2014. And I think that it's time for us to just to take a look and to see where we are. Any thoughts? Mr. Curry?
Just costs associated with the study.
Who does something like that?
You have to hire an outside
I see.
consultant.
Who?
We had a gentleman from, I think he was from Fairfield or one of those
was-
places, but we'd have to go out and find someone to do that. But we'd asked staff to come up with some numbers so that we would have an idea of what the costs would be.
Yes, we have come up with a cost, and we already presented that last year when this issue came up. We've identified, based on the agenda tonight, you're talking about $1 million, and Bob has run those numbers that we. That's the total? That's the total for everything. So the market study that was done by Siegel was about 147,000. That was in 2012 to 14. Obviously, that has to get escalated. But the total request under the agenda items was about $1 million.
How much was this one?
How much?
Well, this market, based on the Siegel numbers, we spent 147,000 in 2014.
I guess I'm asking of the $1 million that are.
147,000.
140 is the number.
Well, no, it's escalated.
It was
Bob has,
13 years ago.
yeah,
10
Bob
years
escalated the numbers, and he's got it in his presentation towards the
Oh, okay, Bob.
Board of Finance. Kelly, yeah, do you have the numbers?
Yeah,
Escalated
so
and-
we escalated what we had spent with Siegel Company. It's about 230,000 today.
Your thoughts? Yes.
Oh, this is quite, most of the stuff is over my head, but it just seems to me that there'd be a million of these studies around you. So don't they just pull it out of the can and give you one they did for everybody else? I'm just curious. It just seems like,
Yeah, so.
why would one be specific for us and not just like they do it and they sell it to everybody for $50 or something? I don't
Well,
know.
it's a little more complicated than that. So all of our staff and myself were engaged in this. So it's very intense because you're looking at not just the market, you're looking at the market within your area. So you're not looking and comparing yourself with Georgia rates. You're looking at the New England area. So it is. There is a lot of work. When we did it in 2000, it took 2 years to do it. from 2012, 2014. And, you know, you spent a lot of time, you know, working with the consultant to show them what we do, how we do it, what the org charts look like, what the job descriptions are. So there's a lot of work involved in that's why it took 2 years.
But now, wait a minute, are we talking about just the study we did for the E&Es or for the total salary study for the entire organization? Because that was a real
Yes,
mess.
that was for the entire organization. That was for the unions as well. E&Es were part of that.
Okay, but no, we had a separate study.
The Siegel, is that the Siegel study?
Yeah,
that you're talking about,
no,
Scott?
Yeah, no, Siegel report included everybody.
yeah,
Yeah.
but we had a separate study because we had a minority firm that came in and that did a salary study, compensation study for the E&Es.
Not aware of that.
Yes, well, we did.
Siegel was the report in 2012 through 14
No,
was the
that's a
Siegel
separate,
report.
no,
Okay,
that's a separate study altogether.
okay.
That's not the same study. Because if I remember correctly, they looked at just, I think it was water companies. They looked at regional and a couple of others. Then there was the broader salary study that was done for the entire organization. And that one was really fraught with controversy and whatever else. And that's the one that took almost 2 years because we started and then we had to stop and sort of go back and go to the drawing boards again. So I'm not talking about a review of the salary structure of the entire organization unless someone wants to go that way. What I'm talking about here is specifically for E&Es.
How many employees are in the E&Es would be covered in that? What percentage of our?
Jamie, how many E&Es do we have?
I think that's what, less than 100?
90,
Yeah,
80 or 90?
yeah, less than 100, I thought. So $230,000 wouldn't be applicable to 90 employees or 80 employees, would they?
No, that's way
It's
too
a
high.
significantly higher number.
As I said,
if
this was
If we were doing all, what, 496, that's less than 22%.
Jamie, do you have the number of? 116.
116, so it's what?
So, and just in addition to that, since 2014, which was the Siegel report, which I mentioned, was for you know the MDC. Since then, this committee and the full committee have reviewed and approved 115 changes to those E&E job descriptions. So they came in front of PPI and they went to the full board for approval. So we've made 115 changes on the E&E job descriptions since 2014.
Curry.
Mr. Chairman, can someone tell us of those 116 employees, how many job descriptions are there?
Just to clarify my point, Commissioner, we have, and we can provide you with a copy of this, by year, since 2014 Siegel report, as you go back and look at our management study that we presented to the full board, we've made lots of changes over a long period of time. And as it relates to E&Es, there's been 115 job description changes since 2014 that have come to this committee and to the full board for changes. And that matches all of the changes that we've made since.
Can you rephrase that, is it 115 changes or changes to 115 job specs?
I don't know that answer, but
It could be one job spec.
No, it's not. But I would tell you that Ben here, I would bet that there may be a number of them that might have come back to you. I wouldn't say the majority of them have been changes to E&E job descriptions that existed prior to 2014, and then with all of our changes that we presented at our master plan, our management study, that those were the changes necessary to achieve that structure that we had approved through the board and PPI.
And Mr. Chair, I'm just suggesting that the number we keep floating is 115, and that's not necessarily the number we should be looking at to determine or anticipate what the cost might be, because it's not based on individuals.
What does job description have to do with this? Am I missing something? Is that what the study does?
Yeah, it
Define
looks at the job description and it looks at,
5, 6, and 7, we end up with new job descriptions? Is that what we do?
No.
No, so I'm not sure what that has to do with anything.
so the E&E job descriptions, as I believe the request is on the agenda, you're looking at the job description in terms of, is it the right job description for the MDC for where it is? You're looking at the salary for that job description as it relates to the market.
I thought we were just looking at salaries based on some.
I don't
I
know.
wasn't sure, I just
Yeah.
don't understand.
I don't
Through you,
know.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Payne here. Scott, wasn't a lot of this included in on the management study that you went over? We had a lot of meetings. Was any of this part of all the work that the staff has done? And we must have had 8, 9 meetings or something on strategic, covering part of the management study, and did it include some of this stuff?
Yeah, so just to clarify, so if everybody remembers, we had 8 specific meetings. As you all know, that came, they ranged from 3 to 4 hours. So you're talking about 30 hours of work. There was at least 2,000 hours of manpower, womanpower to create that 250-page document. And then all of the changes that we talked about that has occurred since 2003, this is an example of those changes that have occurred. So there's been in all of those changes, whether it's structural changes at the MDC or job descriptions at the MDC, have come to this committee and have come to the full board.
Excuse me, let me just, because I think, excuse me, I think we need to be very careful here. The reason for the market survey is to see how far we are off or on the market in terms of people who are doing comparable work. In other words, in effect, are we paying our people more money than what someone is doing comparable work in the marketplace? Are we paying them less? Or are we hitting the marks? That's really the basis for the salary survey. Nothing more, nothing less, just to see where we are in terms of the market. Mr. Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jamie, could I ask you a question? Of all the E&E positions, how many are you having trouble recruiting and filling, and how many are being vacated for other than terminations in terms of disciplinary terminations or not being retired, but just leaving early for whatever reason?
We honestly are not having problems with our E&E positions. I think the positions I would say we're having the most difficult time recruiting, I'll give an example, the GIS analyst, which is one of our 3713 positions. Some of those technical jobs are the ones that we have a harder time with, but those are not the E&E positions.
I always have concern when, you be careful what you ask for. And we as a board have approved the job specs with salary ranges. And if we're not having problems with recruiting, I would say that they're okay. But those that we are having problems recruiting or filling, maybe those are the ones that we ought to take a look at initially.
Mr. Patel.
All the changes which were recommended and approved by this committee or the board, am I correct?
Yes.
Right. So over the period, number of changes have taken place. It's time to collect everything, put together. Once they do that, while we are looking at or comparing all positions with market, why not look at everything? You don't have to accept what study recommends you. You don't have to tell them what you want to do right now, simply studying it. If you feel at that time that if it is overpaid and salaries are too much, you have a choice to reduce it. You think the salary is consistent with market, accept it.
And I agree with Commissioner Curry, and I think that listening to our personnel, human resources people, if they say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, if we're not having an issue in there, and I'm sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you're looking at a new position and going to set a salary that you're going to send to us, you do your own due diligence to look at these jobs, don't you, to each one? I mean, not probably to the extent that a consultant would do, but I don't know if that's really necessary. I mean,
Yes, absolutely. We are looking at relevant market data to see, what does the market pay for the positions. We're also looking at comparable jobs within the MDC. A lot of what we've done has been creating those multitasking jobs. So we've done it with all the unions, and we've also done it on the E&E side over the years, even before my time. So again, we have touched those job descriptions quite a bit.
so you probably know more than the consultant does of what the money is in our area of work.
They're competing against.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So as Jamie mentioned, during the union negotiations, not just this last round, every round, we probably our most competitive group similar to us is Regional Water Authority. And when you look at what Regional Water Authority is doing, we compare ourselves to the local towns, but sometimes the towns are a little different. But we do compare ourselves with, other, especially regional, because it is a nonprofit quasi just like us. Besides regional, we are the only utility. Regional does not have a pension plan like ours. They're using 401ks. They don't have the benefit package that the MDC has. But to Jamie's point, we look at, in this last round, we're looking at all of our negotiations. It took almost 2 years with the unions because we're saying to the unions, this position is out of whack. As I've mentioned before, a customer service rep was starting at $62,000. So we said that, so we used that market data to help negotiate with the unions. And then we always have to be worried about making sure, especially when you're getting to the top level of the union, like the superintendents, we want to make sure that the superintendents are not bumping up against the assistant managers, the managers. So we want to make sure that we have parity. We want to make sure we have opportunity. A lot of our internal employees in the union have been promoted to be managers, and we want that. So we have to make sure that the salary is such that it's an attraction to our union leaders, senior leaders, to become managers.
Commissioner Curry asked a question to answer. How many E&E guys quit last year? Not retired, just quit for something else.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
How many, Commissioner Curry asked, how many E&E people quit last year? Not retired, just left?
I'd have to look at the data. We had, I think, 38 retirements or something.
No, not
around there.
retirements. I'm
Okay.
just talking, just quit to go to a better job.
Nobody.
Handful,
All right, so maybe you
Why
do
would
have a
handful?
problem, but it's the wrong way. I'm just saying. Seriously.
Yeah.
Hey, don't kid yourself, I'm just saying.
We're
I look at
recruiting-
what guys, everybody gets paid pretty good here, I'm just saying.
That's right. And we're
Nobody quits.
recruiting from, I think we hired, how many people did we hire from regional? And
Over the last few years.
we have 5 or 6
Yeah.
people from regional. So people are leaving regional because they don't have a pension. So we've been very
I'm just saying, be
successful.
careful what we ask for. If
Right.
you did this study, I'm out in the real world a little bit more than you guys, not state employees. You guys can pay pretty good here.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, maybe when you all look at done, you should be losing 5% of your E&E employees every year, and you're not.
Yeah, no, we're not. We're not even
Careful.
close.
Just say, be careful what you ask for.
And as I mentioned in the union negotiations, our entry-level engineering position right out of college, before we negotiated the union contracts, the starting salary was $92,000 right out of college. And we've changed all of that, and we've changed the requirements. So we've done a lot, and I hate to go back to the management study that we presented, but there's a lot of information in there. And this is, there's been a lot of great work by all the staff that presented. I think we had 78 people present at those 8 meetings. We are constantly, one thing that we are very conscious of is succession planning. Succession planning is not a word, it's an action, right? So one thing we're doing right now is we've got a lot of young people, really good young people. And we don't want to, Rita, myself, and Kelly, Jamie, we've been dealing with this recently. We've got these young people that are not ready for full management yet, but they're going to be our leaders. They're our future. And we don't want to bring in, as I refer to, a wet blanket. I don't want to bring in people that cut out their opportunity for future success. So we've spent all this time and energy to grow these people into what they are, and we want to see them rise to the top. So we're very, very conscious of making sure we don't bring people in from the outside, which would take away an opportunity from an existing employee to be promoted.
Scott, you're still not talking about this, so I said, the issue is, nobody quits.
Right.
Okay, so whatever,
Right.
so are we paying too much if nobody quits? Again, usually you lose 5% of your employees because there's another world out there. I'm just saying, if we do decide to do this study, and someone comes in and says, hey, nobody quits, you're paying too much, what are you gonna do with that? I'm just saying, I'd be real
I would tell you
careful
this,
where go
though,
with this.
I would offer this, and I've said this before. I would put our staff up against any organization in New England market. Our staff, we are conscious. I know exactly how much an engineer makes at one of the engineering firms because we did that study when we did. Our staff works very, very hard here. And we're the only game in town. We're doing $200 million a year in construction activity. 200. And there's no organization doing that. So our staff is working much harder. As we say 1,000 times, we're doing more with less. And people are happy to do it. We've got a great crew. I don't think we pay our people too much, but I think as your point, they're well paid. We're well paid, and we appreciate that, and our staff works really hard for their money.
Curry?
I would only add that, you look at a job spec, you can take your pen and you can circle salary range, but there's so much more to it. I mean, we offer health plans. People want to work and stay here because of our retirement plan.
Mm-hmm.
We're one of the few, I'm not sure if there's any municipalities left that offer the same retirement plan that we do. So it's a much broader picture than just the salary alone that's keeping people here and keeping them happy.
Yeah. Again, I thought that in the discussions we had, now maybe it wasn't A&I, that we were finding people that were leaving. And that, because I remember the question was raised, the definitive pension plan we have should be enough for anybody to want to work here. And that there was some discussion, I can't remember where it was, whether it was on this committee, where you were having a problem with people leaving, that they never left before because of the pension and the other benefits we have.
No, we're not having that problem. The issues that we're having is the market, it's happening across the country, is you're having specific jobs, as Jamie mentioned. A lot of our engineers, I'm on the board of the University of Hartford, and a lot of the engineering students are leaving engineering and they're going into IT. So, because it pays more. One of the highest paid college graduate is an IT person. So you're seeing people, you're not seeing kids going into plumbers, electricians, and those kinds of skilled craft. So that's what's happening, is that you're seeing a lot of young people want to go into more technology-driven jobs, but on the IT level, we just hired 2 engineers recently. Happens to be black males, and one in the engineering department and one in our construction management department. So we are very successful in our recruitment, and as I think a lot of the commissioners said, we pay well, and as you remember, 2015, the board fully supported. 2018, the board fully supported. There was lots of discussions by our towns to get rid of our defined pension plan. And we said emphatically that even our Becky, thank you. Becky said, you know, what's happening is there's remorse. A lot of municipalities that got rid of the defined pension plans 20 years ago are starting to see the effects now, because what's happening is people can't afford to retire, so they stay longer. And when they stay longer, your worker comp claims go up, you have, out of work, overtime goes up. So, and the board fully supported keeping our pension plan. Yes, they're paying, they were paying 5% years ago, now it's 7.5%, but still the benefit of that pension plan is far greater than Regional Water Authority, which has none, 0, right? So that is the difference. We have a great organization. We have brought these job descriptions to the board since 2014. These aren't just job descriptions. These are job descriptions within new organization charts that have been, again, reviewed and approved. So the structure that exists today didn't just happen. It morphed really since 2003. It morphed since 2014. So I just think that this is, those are the facts, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for coming in a few minutes late. We did hear that there, and it was during a presentation from our consultant, a pension and OPEB consultant, was Becky Seelman from Millman, who said that, this year, or this past year, I think she was talking about, that we had a number of people that leave that were non-retirements. And it was a bigger number than we'd ever had before. So that's just part of it. And I don't think, I'm sure you didn't mean to say, well, nobody quit.
She said nobody.
Virtually nobody quit.
Said
But,
nobody, okay.
we do know that some people left, and I'm not suggesting that means we could do one thing or another with this. I'm just saying that the fact is that we did have people leave. And the only one I can think of, and this is, and I may be wrong, it may not be an E&E, but we had our real estate consultant, it was Alan King that left.
Retired.
And is he an E&E? Was he
Yes,
an
he was
E&E position? Okay. So we did have, Alan leave, and I think,
We weren't talking about.
I mean, it was just, like hearsay or whatever, but I heard that, the real estate business that, he had experience in, it was, obviously he could do better somewhere else, maybe with, I obviously got the impression that you could make more money doing than here. And with respect to whether a pension keeps people here or not, we had a lot of people, more than ever, because they've been here a long time, and at least 20 years ago, and I think as short as 10 years ago, people said, nobody ever leaves the MDC because nobody ever left the MDC. But now we do. Our pension plans changed somewhat. As you pointed out, Scott, we've negotiated out some things about the spouse and the insurance and things like that, which made it a little more attractive and makes it a little more beneficial to us at this point. But by comparison with 401k plans, the one thing that everybody forgets to mention with the 401k plans is you have to make the contribution, no matter what.
Yeah.
You gotta make the contribution. And you have to do it whether it's a good year or a bad year.
And the pension plan.
With the pension plan, we can adjust our contribution to the plan. We have a long-standing, reserve with the pension plan that's basically keeps it solvent for a long time. And if we have a good year, we don't have to make a contribution. And if we have a bad year, we still only have to make the contribution that we need to make. It doesn't make it any worse. So I think there's pros and cons to, to both sides of the aisle with that. But I think the question here is basically, do we want to know, everything that we can know about this stuff, and can we put this information to work for us? I don't think there's any suggestion that we haven't been faithfully keeping up with, looking at what's out there in the market and everything, because I'm sure we have, particularly with the collective bargaining. We did a really good job with working with collective bargaining. I mean, the negotiating the multitask thing was probably the most difficult thing with labor you're ever going to have to do here. But it was successful, and they say that it was successful for them too. They're happy with it. So, but we haven't, it hasn't really been applied, in other areas of the district, and I'm never in favor of saying we don't want to know more about something. I think the more we know, the better off we are. I think the only question is how much is it going to cost us to really to learn some of this, and if we want to limit this, whatever we're looking for, to strictly the salaries and not all the rest of the stuff that goes along with it, I think it might be beneficial, and it all depends on what it costs us. That's my position, Mr. Chair. I want to go on. So.
Patel.
From point and point, different times, any organization look at that salary structure and what we make the changes. If we don't keep the employees happy, because you have hooked them, and hook is retirement. So they will continue on, but do you want happy employees, or you want basically people just simply get by and stay here? So there is nothing wrong to review it. You make a final decision what you want to do after you collect the data, and you use your criteria. Put the values on retirement benefits, etc. You can calculate cost, etc. and then compare it. Why are we afraid? Is it because it is going to cost us to study it? If that's the case, that's different of reason.
That's what I'm saying.
And if that is the reason, then we should look for alternative ways to do it.
Bill, did you have any? No. Mr. Hoffman, did you have something? You had your hand raised. Okay. Great. Well, I think
I'd like to know what it would cost to do just what you're talking about here. Because when $230,000 sounds like a lot but then you said, Scott,
That was for the
we had
whole.
studied the whole, so it should be somewhere in the area of 1/3 of that, or 1/4, whatever the percentage is. And I think that's a consideration anybody's going to have here, and how much it's going to cost us, depending on how much it's needed. But I'd like to know how much it's going to cost.
And we can do that. As being involved in the Siegel report, and as Jamie mentioned, every time we've upgraded these, we've done that internally. And so the point about anything that we do, the consultants don't come in here and say, we're going to do it, right? It's the manpower, the woman power that takes from this organization focus on, as we know, we went from $40 billion up to $180 million in North Hartford. The focus and level of effort from staff to actually feed this information to a consultant is really my concern. It's the magnitude of the work involved in internal staff to do this. As you might remember with Siegel, we had these rooms filled with consultants, and we had staff coming in. I do believe that that based on what we have done, what the board has approved, we just had, just going to dates, 2023, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 managers come to this board. 2021, we you know, it's up to the committee, but we've done our job. We believe that the board and the committee has done its job. It is a lot of work to go through these efforts when we've already compared these jobs to the market, but yeah.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My concern is not so much the cost of the study, although it is a little bit of a concern. My concern really is, and I agree with Buddy that, you know, knowledge and information is probably one of the most important things we need to do. But and I'm not suggesting in two worst case scenarios that we should do that. But let's say we do the study and we find out our salaries are 10% too high compared to everybody else. What is the board going to do? Is it going to reduce salaries and then say goodbye to people because they're no longer happy here? And let's say we find that they're 10% too low, but they're happy now and they're not leaving. So are we going to, and this is a public study, they're going to know it too. Is it going to cost us more money because the study is showing we need to increase the salaries? So I'm just concerned that, you know, over the last 2-3 years, our budget's been flat. We haven't had to increase costs to our towns and to our ratepayers. We have happy employees. It's a concern of what we would do with that information at either end of the spectrum and how it would impact. And we can talk about money being lost, but I'm talking about employees and all that years of experience being lost. And that's where my real concern is.
Commissioner Desai on the WebEx has his hand raised.
Commissioner Desai?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. This is Commissioner Desai. Just question for Jamie. And looking at a couple of job descriptions for E&E, are you finding out that it is overly paid, underly paid, or what does your research say? And when we did the research in 2012, 2014, what did we find? Did we find that there was a huge difference between what MDC was paying versus the market conditions? I mean, I think I'm just trying to learn from the past. If, as Scott said, there has been 117 revisions to the job, included the dollar amounts or not, but are we keeping up as we are going year by year with the job description and the salary? The 2014. So, thank you.
Okay. I think there's a lot in that question, so I'll answer that as best I can. I was not here in 2014, so I can't speak in a lot of detail about what happened in 2014. But I do think, I think COVID, and I've probably said this before, has changed a lot. I think, you know, we used to probably be a little more competitive than we are now, but I do think we are still very competitive, especially on the E&E side. We really, truly have not had a regular issue with recruiting people to come to the MDC on the E&E side. Even on the salary side, when we're making offers, it's not like a huge negotiation where people are looking for a lot of extras. And again, I think some of the commissioners have made comments about the benefits. I do think, you know, people are excited that, oh, we have a pension. We also have the opportunity of contributing to a 457B. So there are a lot of benefits here that I think are still attractive.
And I do have, I'll quote rough numbers, the 2014, the E&Es were under 10% over market, in that range. 1026 was in that same range, you know, less than 10%. 184, which is our laborers union, was in that 10 to 15% range. And 3713, which is our technical union, which is the one that took us the longest to negotiate, and the reason why we reduced was about 26% over the market. And that study is what we used, that 2014 report is what we used to negotiate the 2015 contracts with 184 for multitasking job descriptions. And the answer was we either utilize the report or we negotiate multitasking, which in most cases, the job descriptions were paid more. The 1026, we didn't do anything. We've actually done multitasking and again, paid more. 3713, which is our technical engineers and construction inspectors, those, that group, the technical group, GIS, they did negotiate and dramatically reduced all of the job descriptions because of that report. To the question, the E&Es were a little over the market, but not severely over the market. And as you know, the board is we are very thankful for the raises that we get here at the MDC. We just negotiated a 5, 4, 3.5, and 3, which was was great for all of our employees, including the union employees. You know, our employees also benefit from, just like the state, you know, if you're in a job, E&Es, if you're in a pay scale, you not only get your annual raise, but you get a step as long as you have. So, you know, it's a great organization to work for. We have asked our employees to work hard. They do. I believe they deserve everything we give them.
Mr. Curry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I suggest through you that we postpone or table and before that, but to ask for what those associated costs for such a study would be, and then bring it up again?
I agree with this recommendation.
Is that for five? Is that for 5, 6, and 7? Is that for 5, 6, and 7? I mean, they're all, it's all the
Sure, yeah.
same.
I think they're all the same.
Item 5, 6, and 7 on the agenda, all
Yeah.
3.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
All three of them.
Yes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Is it a table or, done as a table or?
Motion to
postpone?
table.
Motion to table.
To a certain time.
Postpone, to table.
Table.
Can we state that as what the motion is, so everybody understands clearly what?
Motion is to table 5, 6, and 7 till such time as staff can come up with the numbers as to what they estimate the appropriate costs would be. Does that capture the,
I think so, yeah.
your thinking, Mr. Curry?
Yes.
And what was,
Dollars,
I'm sorry, but I just want to make sure I heard this right, so, you know, but, and it's because I don't hear as well as I used to. Not because anybody hasn't explained it, but
What?
I just, you know, and I got them turned up, they're turned up, so I just want to, too much listening to rock music.
But your old band too.
So tabling it, are we saying we're just tabling it, or we're tabling it? I thought I heard you say something.
Staff is
Get the
going,
numbers on
staff is
cost
going to have to. bring it.
associated with the studies.
Okay, fine, thank you, thank you.
Motion's been made and seconded.
Discussion?
Well, yes.
The only thing I'd bring up, for myself, I'd make the decision right now just to not do it at all. Don't do the studies, don't spend the money. Because to be honest with you, if the answer is not what, or let's just put this, if the answer is what I think it would be, I don't think we're prepared to do anything about it anyways. So, I mean, it's a kind of a lousy discussion, but if we want to spend the time doing this and spending the money for studies, I'd vote no for 5, 6, and 7.
Well, I mean, you'll
right
get
now,
a
but
chance to
I'm-
vote, you'll get a chance to vote on the
I'm with
motion.
you, I'm just saying as a discussion purposes, I'd be prepared to vote no right now, but
Okay.
that's fine.
Mr. Payne?
Yep, Commissioner Payne. I think our staff is an amazing group of people. Real proud of them. They They do an amazing job. I think they're always looking to see how to be as efficient as possible. They have a tremendous amount of things on their plate right now. They're well paid. They know they're well paid, and I'm glad they're well paid. I think all these studies are absolutely not necessary, and we could be working on other things, so I won't be voting for this. Thank you.
You prepared to vote?
I would just say that whether I agree or disagree, the motion on the floor is not to do anything but just table. We can take those votes when it comes up again.
Yep.
It's like a referral to a committee. You do
All
it
those in
anyway.
favor of the motion that is currently on the floor?
Can you read the motion, please?
Motion to table agenda item 5, 6, 7 to future meeting for staff to come up with appropriate numbers for
Can
what the
you
cost would be.
loudly speak so I can hear you?
Absolutely. The motion is to table agenda items number 5, 6, and 7 to a future meeting for staff to come up with appropriate numbers for what the cost would be.
Mr. Chairman? If we decide to do it. I don't have any issue with the motion. I'm going to vote in favor of the motion, but I do want to say that I have asked staff to come up with estimates for these items and others. So, and I expect to hear that. I thought we'd be hearing it today at the Board of Finance, at least early estimates for it, if not, actual charges. So we can expect to hear something, I think, soon, which is why I'd be in favor of tabling it, because those estimates are going to go to the Board of Finance and the District Board as well, so.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
The ayes have it. Item 8, senior staff succession planning. Did you want to?
No.
Oh, okay.
I
Well,
thought that was
okay.
agenda item.
No. Well, I think that we are at a place in this organization that we really have to take a careful, thoughtful look as to where the board thinks it wants to go and what it wants to consider. And that's why this item is really here, for that reason and for that reason alone. The board is responsible for making policy, but the board is also responsible for appointing essentially the people who operate this organization. And I think that the board, we've not had, I think, a careful conversation as to where we think we would like to go with this organization and with its staff. Not putting anybody on the spot, not in the hunt for anyone, but I think that it is an appropriate conversation for a policy body to make or to have.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Who is proposing this number 6?
Number 6, basically, I think is
And 8,
coming out of a
Pardon?
group, is coming from a group of commissioners, including myself, who think that basically it's been 20 years since we've taken a careful look at ourselves.
Should we not wait till we, should we not wait till we make some decision on fee number 5?
But that's all lumped in there. I mean, that's why we've tabled these items, and that's why we took the vote, and that's where we are at this point. All right, Mr. Kirk.
So, Mr. Chair, I hear what you're saying, and I think that it'd be good for us to, eventually the whole board, but certainly here at PPI, to know what are the positions that we are responsible for participating in the appointment for, so that everybody knows what we're talking about. I mean, it's beyond just Scott Jellison. I mean, there's a senior staff that we get aboard. Is there a way that the staff can get that information to us so that we know exactly
Yes.
what we're talking about? And so I would request that we
Okay.
get that information, and that I know that there's some positions that are actually called out in the charter that are direct, directly, the board's directly responsible for, for appointing. But there may be others that are not in the charter that still fall to us to look at if there's some sort of succession planning. So I'd like at some point for us to have a list in front of us of those positions that are, responsible, that we're responsible for participating in one way or another in the hiring or, promoting or whatever. So,
Would it be appropriate, essentially, to take the tack that we have taken in accordance with Mr. Curry's suggestions? That basically we table this item until we get from staff the information that you are looking for, so that we can then
yeah, I'd like to see,
discuss it,
I'd
and
like to
then,
see that. I'd like everybody
Yeah,
here to
yeah,
see.
exactly, exactly.
Who are we talking, what positions are we talking about? I think that's where we start,
exactly.
Yeah, I think we should ask the counsel, our legal counsel,
Yep.
to take a look at that and come back to the board. Because I do remember
No,
there
there
was
was-
obligations that the board has had in the past at evaluating, not just Scott, I think there are other employees that we've looked at.
If I might, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Chris Stone, District Council, just so I'm clear, the motion's to table because one of the things you wanted, Commissioner Slammy, was a list of who at least we consider to be senior staff. Is that fair?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean,
And I think what the chairman's referring to is an evaluation.
We have
Of senior staff,
traditionally
right.
done senior staff evaluation. In fact, I believe Maureen Magnan had something to do with heading that up, and nothing's happened in the last 2 or 3 years that I can remember.
And I bring it up only, I'll report back on both, right? So
I don't know what the
who the senior
specifics
management
are.
is, and number one, and number two, what if any evaluation processes are in place now?
Right, that's good.
Fair enough.
You're correct, I didn't ask that.
Yeah, okay.
Curry?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Along those comments, I would like to see, it's going to be difficult, if I say, Scott, tell me what you're doing to fulfill your position through planning for the future without identifying those persons or persons. So that raises one question, but I would like for Scott and HR to come back to us. And I know we have cross-training, we've got the combined job specs, we've got upward mobility. We have a lot of things that would encourage and support succession planning, but I'd like to know exactly what's being done. Because I'm more concerned, I think, with the, in talking with some of the employees, we've got a pretty senior staff out there. And we need to be prepared when they walk and retire and,
Exactly.
so I would like to see what we're doing to ensure that succession planning is actually going to work.
Exactly, and I think one of the things that we need to be very careful of here is that we're not talking about running the railroad on a day-to-day basis. What we're really talking about within the context of our responsibility as commissioners at the policy level, and particularly in terms of being involved and making a determination as to the people who are going to, in effect, be at the leadership positions here, that is something that we have to be very thoughtful about and think not only for the short term, but more immediately the long term. So, at this point,
Commissioner,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Commissioner Payne here. You answered Commissioner Patel's question about who requested a lot of these things on the agenda, and you said yourself and commissioners. Could you please provide me with exactly who requested these things?
am I required to?
No.
No, no, I'm not.
It's a little inappropriate that you won't fill me in on what commissioners requested these things. It seems a little abnormal. If I could finish.
Well, have you filled me on everything that you've done? Or the things that you've been involved in?
If I could finish.
Go ahead.
It seems a little inappropriate. Also, it seems like you're attacking the staff a little bit here. And you have a past history of attacking and getting involved,
Point of order. Come on.
getting involved with staff in the past.
It's on the table.
And I don't,
Motion to table. So we're
Motion to
clear.
table.
There's a motion on the table.
There's a
on the
motion to
floor.
table.
It's not debatable.
Hold on.
Okay.
Well, on the motion to
Okay,
table.
No, motion to table.
What's good for Goose is good for everybody. There's a motion to table on the floor. It's been seconded, John, or no?
Nobody's made a motion.
No one's made a motion. Okay, I apologize.
oh, well, then can I finish?
I apologize
Mr.
to you. I
Okay.
apologize to you.
Very good. Okay, I'd like to finish. Question for Scott. We know this, the commissioners know that we've had problems with the chairman in the past getting involved with staff. I'd like to know whether or not there's been anything new. Has he asked for, since we know from some previous emails, Commissioner Adel and commissioners getting involved with finding jobs for people. Has Commissioner Taylor asked for jobs for people?
Oh, just, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
What is
No, hold on, Bill. Mr. Chairman. If I may.
Counsel?
What's on the agenda, what we're talking about is senior staff succession planning. And there may be a time, either in other agenda items or future, whatever, but that where you may ask those questions and they may get answered. I fail to see how the questions are relevant to that agenda item, senior staff succession planning. So I'm going to suggest that the good commissioner move on at this point. Or there may be a point of order on the issue of whether it's germane.
There's a lot of inappropriate behavior going on lately with you and the leadership. Thank you.
Again,
That's inappropriate.
I'm entitled to my opinion.
Well, no one's voicing, no one's objecting to your voicing them. You are.
Get into people that got involved in it.
has there been?
Mr. Curry?
Well, I thought I made that a motion.
Yeah,
I
you
will
did
make
too.
that motion now.
The motion has been made
We'll bring it back.
that this matter will be tabled and that staff will come back with the assistance or under the guidance of counsel, indicating those positions that it is felt that either we are responsible for appointing or have some involvement in. Is that a correct statement of the motion, Mr. Curry? Okay,
Second.
all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Passes.
Can I, Commissioner Lester, this is John Myrtle. Was that an aye or a no? Thank you.
I'm having trouble here.
Moving quickly to item 9, opportunity for general public comments. There being none, commissioner requests for future agenda items. Once again, commissioner requests for future agenda items. There being none, I will attain the appropriate motion.
Move adjournment.